for the worst case scenario, but it's those surprises that come out that, are you willing to do something? Can you do it? And are you prepared for it? Do you have the right tools for it? If not, what do we do about it, right? So belt, that's perfect. It works, right? Don't get caught up. I mean, when I went through the Special Forces medical training, we didn't have the luxury of tourniquets. We had to do things with ace wrap and gauze, which is like $2 worth of supplies, and it works. So at about 30 seconds, we can lose enough blood to render us unconscious. Can you put a tourniquet on yourself if you're unconscious? No. All right? So you have roughly around 30 seconds to effectively be able to put a tourniquet on yourselves. All right? Now, ideally, that's going to be the goal for today. We're going to try to get ourselves to put a tourniquet on ourselves in 30 seconds, and then we'll do it on others. All right? So, number one cause of preventable death after injury is bleeding, right? So, car accidents, falling from an airplane, you know, burning buildings, all those things kill people first, and then it's bleeding, all right? Especially in a tactical situation. That's why we focus so much on it. So tourniquets, very simple devices. Pretty much just a band with a stick, and I'll break it down a little bit further. Comes in various colors. What's the best color to use? So a good friend of mine, Tomahawk, had just gotten killed. I was in the operations center when it happened. Dark 30, and I'm like, I tell the AST, hey man, give me the keys to the truck. I'm gonna go pick up the body because that's my buddy. When I left the operations center, Benny the medic had gotten shot, the interpreter got shot, and another kid that was assigned to him got shot on the leg. When I left, Tom was the only one that was killed. When I got to the flight line and they were bringing in the bodies, SF would get preference so we could go in and start taking stuff off of our guys and prepping the body for transport. And when I walked in, I found it very hard because there was a bunch of soldiers outside just yelling and screaming. I was like, what the fuck's going on? So when I went in there, and I'm trying to keep myself in one piece, doing everything on Tom, there was another body across from me. I was like, who's that? And like, oh, you didn't hear? I was like, no. He's like, that kid that got shot on the leg, he didn't make it. And I was like, what? Like, dude, what the fuck, man? He's got a tourniquet on. Like, yeah, Blackhawks, middle of the night, camouflage, black tourniquet. They didn't check it. He bled out on the helicopter ride to Kandahar. And I was like, that is the most fucked up shit I could ever hear. He's like, nope, he's National Guard. His wife's outside. So now they gotta tell her that he didn't make it. So if anytime you're gonna pick a tourniquet, bright yellow that you could see from the International Space Station. Blue is a trainer, so this is only used, I mean, it still works if you buy it from North American Rescue. I buy stuff from China that's like cheap that we can use for training, but don't use that. But the blue ones are for training for the most part. If you buy it, don't get excited when you find a $100 medical kit online and you're like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And then it's all blue because it's just training material, all right? So identify a bleed. You want to apply pressure. I use the triple D, not the double D, all right? So detect, direct, and then device, all right? So we want to detect a bleed. We want to put direct pressure on it, and then we want to put a device on it, all right? So scan for massive bleeding, look for blood, look for pain, look for holding. People that get shot, if they go unconscious because they lost enough blood, we have something called crep or grim. It's so painful that even if you're unconscious, you'll start to grimace, make funny faces. So sometimes you might not see a bleed because they have a lot of clothing on, especially in colder places. But if you start touching them and they're like, okay, there's a good indication that there might be a bullet hole somewhere around there or an injury, stab wound, stuff like that, okay? Direct pressure, like anything. You cut yourself, you burn yourself, we pull it in and we put pressure. So if I see something bleeding, I want to put direct pressure on it, okay? And then apply a tourniquet, chest seal, or hemostatic gauzes. We'll talk about that. What if you don't have a tourniquet? What can we do? Knee, put pressure, direct pressure. We have things called pressure points. So the blood vessels, the further away, the smaller they get, the closer in, the bigger they get. So you can use gravity. You can elevate the limb. So that way it makes it harder for the blood to flow out. Or you could find one of those bigger pressures, usually closer towards the body, and just put pressure on it. Doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to be there like fucking trying to map this shit like, oh, here's this muscle and that muscle, and put pressure. Just squeeze it. This is great for kids because kids, their arms are so small, most tourniquets won't fit on them. So kid that cuts himself playing sports or whatever and they're bleeding really bad, you could just grab them up here on the bicep, squeeze, and that's usually enough to stop bleed, at least a good bleed, before you could do something else, all right? Wear gloves. People are nasty, so yeah, I don't like to touch people in general, and worse when you've seen what people do, so you guys know, it's like people are, don't touch them, all right? So stop gaps, apply direct pressure, you know, tourniquet, if you can get it on there, the sooner the better. But how many of us, again, walk around with tourniquets? Very few. So if you don't have it like right there with you, you know, apply pressure, get someone to bring it to you, okay? So tourniquets, pretty badass. They've been around for a while, been around in history for a while. In the Civil War time, which was one of our bloodiest battles for American soldiers, one of two things happened when you got shot and got a tourniquet. You either lost a limb or you lost your life, all right? And that scared us enough to say, F that, we're not doing that no more. So then we look at the next big battles. World War I. What did we do during World War I? We went back with our native friends and we said, yo, what y'all do when you get hurt? Throw some dirt in it. Fuck yeah, all right? Special dirt though, magic dirt, kaolin-based dirt. This is clay-based dirts because Native Americans knew that kaolin, it acts as a binder when it mixes with blood and it actually stops a bleed. So if you look at movies like Saving Private Ryan or like older war pieces, like they try to be as accurate as they can, you'll notice that when someone gets shot, they open a little pack of powder, they put the powder on and they put pressure. Those were kaolin-based products and they worked really good. So World War I, World War II, we're putting powders. Vietnam is when we started saying, you know what, fucking tourniquets used to work back in the day, let's start using them again. There's 3 ways to stop bleeding. Direct pressure, finding the blood vessel and clamping it, or just wait. Give it time. It will stop, I promise. Patient won't be alive, but it will stop, all right? So that's what they used to do in those days. They'd fucking put a tourniquet on and every 15 minutes, they let it go to let it bleed. Just enough to put the tourniquet back on, all right? To date, 18 years of global war on terrorism, no American soldier has lost their life or limb because of a tourniquet. And we've had tourniquets on for over 6 hours, all right? That's not to say that they didn't lose it because of the injuries, but the tourniquet itself was not the cause of them losing their limb, all right? So it's very important to understand that we're gonna put tourniquets and we're gonna put it first, all right? There's a bunch of flavors, pick yours. Mickey Neurotoxin Absolutes. If you can do it and you can put it on in 30 seconds, it's badass for you, all right? So very simple technology. All they did was they took some material with Velcro on it, made one side without Velcro, but what makes it special is that they put this ribbon in the middle. They tacked it here and they tacked it at the bottom so that when you twist, 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 what it does is it scrunches up the tourniquet. Why is that important? Because if we complete the circuit and make a circle, we get 360-degree circumferential pressure, all right? People say, well, Mick, is a belt as effective as a tourniquet? If you have it, use it, because when you put a belt and you cinch down on it, what ends up happening is you put direct pressure at the buckle. So that's your focal point. Everything else is just pulling on that. You're not gonna get effective 360 decompression like you would with this. If I have it, it's the only thing I have, better than nothing. But at the end of the day, this is my go-to if I have it, all right? So the way you set these up, because I'll train you guys once on how to do this, and it's like teaching monkeys algebra. Like half of you will get it, half of you won't, but I'm here for you, all right? I was that monkey at one point, all right? So when you do, release the stick, give a nice tug to get that slack off of it, point the Velcro down, get the little tail here. You're gonna slip it in roughly about 6 inches. Gentlemen, this is actual 6 inches, all right? When you have it there, you're gonna grab the stick in your hand, and if you look at the tab, it says time. You should be able to read time. Some of y'all motherfuckers will figure it out and you'll be like, it's his time. And I was like, I know it's his time, man. But like how people read, you're supposed to read it like people, all right? So time should be up, all right? At this point, you'll flatten the tourniquet and you'll end up with one side that looks like an old Big Ben clock and the other side that's just all Velcro. We don't want Velcro, so we're gonna fold it up on itself just like that. I don't want the time tab there. I want it dog-eared like that. Why? The windlass is gonna hold in there, but it's very tempting for us to go like this. Remember when I said big gerbil comes out, putting the lug nuts back on a tire is gonna be impossible, but getting the freaking tire iron and hitting friend, running from bear, good? Yeah, this is the lug nut. Imagine being shot and trying to undo that little clip. It may be the last thing you do. So that's why we wanna make sure the tab is like that, all right? So how do we apply a tourniquet? Well, we know that the brain is the #1 organ in the body, but when it comes to bleeding, we're romanticos, all right? So you can play whatever romantic music you want, but if you get shot, injured, or hurt, first thing you want to do is find camera right there, right? So when you have a camera right in front of you, you can be like, hell yeah, send it, right? Always look good. Once you have a nice little loop that you could slide your hand in, you have to find this little tab right here, because like I said, we're romanticos. I want that tab pointing towards my heart, all right? Why do I want it pointing to my heart? Well, what happens if I don't? Nothing wrong with it. Fuck yeah, she broke my heart. I'm no longer romantico. I can still put it, but I have to reach across my body to be able to apply it. Those few seconds will make a difference, as you can see from the gentleman that got stabbed in the neck. Every second counts. So if I put it in like a romantico and I have it here, I can grab that tab and give a nice pull this way and I have control. So if I feel like I'm passing out, even me pulling across like this is still gonna apply some pressure there. So then I'll grab the tail, circle it around, and then I'll grab my windlass, which is a fancy name for stick, and I'm gonna twist, twist, twist until what? Bleeding stops, right? Once it stops, then I could lock it in, secure it, tie it in, and then call out time. That lets me know you got it on, you put it on, and it's effective, right? Reality of it too is that when we look at strategy, like active shooters, we're training for tactical medicine, we're not training for Boy Scout medicine, right? In tactical medicine, we have to assume a shooter's coming at us, right? So if I have 10 people running after me, there's 2 platforms that are mainly used across the world. One is a 7.62 platform, and the other one's a 5.56 or standard 2.23, right? So NATO likes 5.56 for a reason. That's why we use it, because they adapted it after us, because our military uses strategy. Because they know that if 10 people are running after me, if I got 10 bad guys coming at me, and I shoot them with a 7.62, what am I going to do to that person? I'm going to kill them. What I do to his 9 buddies? Piss them off, because I just killed their buddy, right? So they're going to come at me with more what? Violence and aggression of force, right? So that's bad for me, because I just pissed off the hornet's nest. 7.62 is designed to kill. 5.56 is not really designed to kill. What's it designed to do? Main and tumble. So it's designed to go at a higher velocity so that when it comes in contact with something solid, it'll tumble. So if I get shot in the knee, there's a good chance it's going to tumble and come out my butthole, right? That's a realistic thing that can happen. And in the meantime, it's going to create a long wound track, right? So now I have 10 people running at me, and I shoot one of them in the lower limb, and it comes out their butthole. What did I just do? He's not dead. So what is he doing? He's wounded, and he's screaming. What's that going to do to his 9 buddies? The hell yeah, they're going to be like, oh man, that looks like it fucking hurt, right? So it demotivates the others, and it's going to take at least 2 people to carry that one person out. So theoretically, with 1 bullet, I'm able to take 3 people out of the battle without killing 1. Now, let's look at FBI statistics, because FBI changed the definition on what active and mass casualty shooters are, right? They keep a very good database. If you go to activeshooters.gov, you'll find their database. What's the #1 platform they use? The active shooters most use, huh? Pistol, but mostly AR-15s. AR-15s is one of the most common things used. So is there a possibility that a kid gets shot in the wrist and it comes out an elbow? Yeah. And you guys will see when we start shooting meats out there, you'll see what the wounds look like. They're very hard to tell. So with that, it's likely that a shot can come in here and the X could be somewhere else and we miss it. So that's why we always go high and tight at all times, all right? So upper extremities, very simple. Like I said, you just want to apply it, just simply, just make that loop, find out where the little tab is, slide it up, grab it, twist it, apply it, twist, 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 until the bleeding stops. If you give a good tight pull at the beginning, it shouldn't take too many pulls afterwards. You want to make sure it's nice and tight in there, all right? So now, lower limbs. When we apply it to the lower limbs, we have to take into account that people put shit in their pockets, right? So I'm going to use this leg because I got all my shit on this other one. So when we lay down flat, can everybody see? When we lay flat, you can lay as flat as you want. We're always going to have natural voids. Natural voids underneath our ankles, our knees, the small of our back, and the small of our neck, all right? So we're going to take advantage of that. So what you're going to do is you're going to undo your tourniquet. You're going to slide it underneath those voids because what's the biggest, strongest bone in the body? And men, don't say something else. Femur, yeah, thank you for keeping that PG. So what muscle group connects to that femur? The quadriceps, right? Your quads. Aren't those big, strong fucking muscles? Imagine if you were to get shot and just the round just nicked the bone. What happened to the integrity of the bone? Have you ever Charlie horse someone? Oh, they go down to the ground. Why? The muscles tighten up. Imagine getting Charlie horsed by a bullet, right? So that strength of contraction is enough to even break a bone, enough to break a femur bone, especially if the integrity is lost from a gunshot wound, all right? I'll tell you what, if my femur's broken and you come and fuck around with it, there's gonna be 2 casualties, all right? So we slide it under and we hold it as close as we can to the body, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna seesaw it up. We seesaw it up for our gentlemen because it helps get the furniture out of the room, if you know what I mean. You'll do it once, and then you'll never do it again, all right? So you're gonna grab the tail, and you're gonna pull as tight as you can. You wanna make sure that the mechanisms to drive the tourniquet are accessible. I don't wanna put them in between their legs, and I don't wanna put it off to the side where it could get knocked off something. So I wanna have it somewhere it's visible and yet accessible. So when I pull tight, I know some of y'all skip leg day, but for the most part, you shouldn't be able to, don't chicken out my ass. You need to make sure you're getting enough Velcro to Velcro contact, because if not, that little tail hanging out there, it's gonna get caught on something, and when they go to move you, guess what? It's gonna look like you have a tourniquet on, because this is nice and tight, but the reality is it failed, all right? So again, we're gonna put this on, twist, 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 until what? Bleeding stops. What if the bleeding doesn't stop? We put another one, all right? So how do we put the other one?
Right next to it.
Right next to it or even across it, all right? You can put it across it. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, there are some better tourniquets for the leg. One is the soft T. It's this really cool one with aluminum or aircraft grade aluminum, like 900 grade fucking canvas. This thing is awesome. I'll pass it on so you guys could feel it. This is the one I actually carried with me in Afghanistan. The problem with this is that the pressures. So these tourniquets are designed to pop when you reach too much pressure. So usually you'll be able to get them to the point to where they'll stop bleeding, and if you push it more, it'll pop. There's a reason for that, because you ever slept on your hand or on a foot, and then you get up and you're like, oh man, I can't walk. I got the tinglies, right? Yeah. That's stopping blood flow to a nerve. That nerve could get damaged. If you put tight enough, you can actually damage the nerve. Those tourniquets, the one that's passing around right now, the soft T, can reach those pressures and then some. So yeah, good luck, you saved my life, but now I can't walk right for the rest of my life, all right? So better than nothing, but just keep that in mind. You could put 2 of these and it'll work. What you don't want to do is create a gap between those two, right? Because if there's a bleed in between those two tourniquets, that can create a pressure that's actually very excruciating, very painful, called compartment syndrome. We have, y'all know long johns, like from the cold, like those little underwears. We have something similar to that, made out of very fibrous material, and it doesn't stretch too well. So any bleeding that's going on between a space is going to cause a lot of pain, all right? Where would I use the tourniquet? If there's 3 phases, direct threat, indirect threat, and let's get the fuck out of here. Where would I use the tourniquet? Direct, indirect, any one of those, right? Technically, tourniquet we could use in all of them. But ideally, if we're in a direct threat and you're bleeding, I could put pressure and get you the fuck out of there. Or if I see that it's a bad bleed, I'll put a tourniquet on it, and that's absolutely fine. Packing a wound? Yeah, I'm not packing a wound if there's a direct threat. Like, if there's a shooter nearby, you're like, lo siento, last rites, and I'm out. Like, good luck, man. Here's a rock. Fight, Like, that's it. But, yeah, you're not going to pack a wound unless you're in the indirect threat. So, indirect, what does that mean? There's 2 things that have to qualify. I want at least 2 things to qualify me so that I could say I'm really in an indirect threat area. What would those 2 things be? Huh? Ooh, I like it. Barricades, cover. Cover, concealment, all right? You guys familiar with the difference between both? Yes. Concealment, I'm hiding behind a bush. I look like the fucking bushman there hiding, right? Can you kill a bush? Hell yeah, you can. Cover, the other big word, cover. Now you have a barrier that can stop. So, this freaking sheetrocks, bullets can go through easy. But they provide great concealment, right? But cover would be like a cement barrier, something bigger. If you get behind a car, the problem with cars is what? Nowadays they're made out of what? Paper and fucking paper mache and glue, right? That's it. So they're very challenging. The only really safe parts behind cars is not even the motors anymore, because a lot of them are aluminum motors. So most rounds could go through them pretty easy. So your best bet is the axles. But packing wounds, it's all about resource management. So when I was on team, we used to mess around with each other, and we used to give each other the little circle, little thumb, and then everybody started saying it was racist. But the reason we did it was because it's a circle of life, and it was like a way to fuck with each other, because I was like, you're not in my circle, you're out of my circle. Because I could only carry so much shit, Like if I'm going on the battlefield, I'm not going to carry enough to save everybody. With my bag, I could save like maybe 1 really bad trauma, 2 okay traumas, and maybe one of those 3 or 4 little owies and stuff like that. But you're not going to treat everybody. There's people that unfortunately are not going to make it. You have to, again, mentally prepare yourself that there's 3 kinds of patients. Patient number 1 is going to die. No matter how badass you are, they're going to die. Patient number 2 is going to live no matter how bad you fuck it up. All right? Think back to Cheech and Chong. Here, take this. No, don't take that. All right? That patient's going to live no matter what. And then there's patient number 3. That's the patient that's going to die if you do the wrong thing, but they live if you do the right thing. All right? And that's who we train for. So if I come up to a scene and I've got 5 patients bleeding, but I only have 1 pack of Salox Rapid, what can I do? Triage. Yeah. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Yeah. Or I like that person more than that person. All right. Or here's a stick. See who wins. All right. The winner gets to keep the Salox. No. There's nothing wrong with taking a Salox, stretching it out, cutting it into 5 pieces, packing first with Salox, and then using cheaper material to fill in the voids, all right? There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that would be my suggestion. If you're limited on supplies, now what are good alternatives to supplies? Kind of going into the survival wilderness medicine. What can I use as an alternative to pack a wound? T-shirt, tablecloth, towels. What do you not want to use? Tampon? Oh, all right, you just brought a fucking sore side. Who's got tampons in their kits other than the females? All right. Who, say it. Who's got it? There's got to be at least 2 of you. Statistically, 2 of you have fucking tampons in your kit. All right. So, if you don't tell me, baby Jesus is watching, all right? So he knows the truth. So, yeah, someone's got it. Whoever's spewing that fucking hate, man, don't do it, man. Don't put a tampon in your kit. Unless you're female, you need it, you're going out in the woods. But if you're like a dude and you got a tampon in your kit for a gunshot wound, like, just fucking punch yourself right now. Like, save us all save it, right? Don't do it. It doesn't work, right? The chemicals in there can leach into the bloodstream and cause way worse damage, right? It's not designed for active bleeds. It's designed for sloughing bleeds, all right? So don't do it. Other things, don't use paper-based products. Paper towels. I don't care how fucking absorbent they are or how tough and how tough they are. They got to fucking. They even took the beard off the guy. And I don't know if you ever seen that shit. That's a reason for that, because motherfuckers were like, hey, it's tough enough. He's got a beard. I'm gonna fucking pack a wound. No, yeah, don't do that. All right. So don't pack a wound with them, because again, those cellulose fibers can get into the circulation and cause way more damage. All right. So don't mess with it. All right. Yeah. The way Salox works is the chitosan actually reacts with the hemoglobin. All right, so like the other one I told you guys, it reacts with the platelets. So the platelets come together and form like a pile. So imagine there's a hole right here and I'm just putting a bunch of piles of rocks on it until I cover the hole. Now that's great if you have the pile of rocks to cover the hole. But if you don't, because you're taking an aspirin, it's just gonna keep going and going and going. So it doesn't matter how much of a gauze I put in there. With Salox being chitosan, every red blood cell in your body has hemoglobin, all right? And that's the reacting factor of it. So it doesn't matter if you're on the last drop of blood, if you put Salox on it, it's gonna react with it because it's reacting to the protein in the blood. That's what it's reacting.
A little is better than none.
A little is better than none. That's why I can start with Salox, even if it's just a small little strip, and it's gonna be better than just putting a gauze in there straight, all right? Because it's gonna give me some effect, all right? Now, there's things you can do upstream, just like a river. You can put logs like a beaver and slow down the flow. How? We already learned. Bigger blood vessels towards the core. What do we do with them? We can elevate the wound or apply pressure points, right? Squeeze the arm, right? So have the person sit down, raise their hand up, put pressure around the bicep so that way it slows down the blood flow, and then pack the wound, all right? So those are things that can benefit you. So again, concepts, if we apply them, they make sense.